welcome back to the Tea and a Butty podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
And today we're going to be talking about recipes that you'd think were ancient, but are quite new, in the last 100 years or so.
Okay.
So yeah, you'd think...
How ancient are we talking?
We're talking pretty ancient. We're talking like antiquity times.
Antiquity times? Is that an official time period?
Antiquity, yeah, since antiquity, they call that. Yeah, that's what they do.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah.
Antiquity.
Antiquity, yeah.
Okay. When is that?
Antiquity, like thousands of years ago.
What?
Yeah.
That is not a time period.
It's not a time period. It's just antiquity, meaning like when humans started to evolve, and were cavemen or whatever. It's not a time period. It's just a general meaning for antiquity. Because what's an antique? It's an old thing.
Yeah.
And it's very old.
Antique is usually something that's older than 100 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anything
years or older.
Yeah. So yeah.
So that's what we're talking about when we say ancient.
Ancient.
We think
ancient, antiquity, yeah. People will back me up here, I think. Won't you?
How come I feel like that episode of Friends where Phoebe is, she hates Pottery Barn, and Rachel keeps buying things from Pottery Barn and telling her that they're from, she's like, oh, but she's telling her she's getting it from, like, the thrift store, the charity shop or something, and Phoebe's like, oh, this is a great find.
Yeah.
What period is this from? And Rachel doesn't know any of the time periods, so she's just like, oh, the days of yore.
And the days of yore.
And from yesteryear. And
it's like, yeah, no, I'm not talking about antiquity.
Quit saying
it just means like it's just a general kind of
just
rule.
Old.
General old. General oldness.
Okay, we've said way too long on this.
People know it, and it's very cold here. And people are very
that was a good transition.
Yes. It's very cold here, so that's probably why you're hearing little sniffles and sniffling. But like recipes that you thought were ancient and they're not.
Yes.
You're eating, like, I don't know. People might be eating a hamburger and think, oh, this was around when cavemen were around.
Okay. I see you.
This recipe's been around for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Millennia.
I don't think I've ever, what foods have you thought that about?
I don't know.
I don't think I've ever been eating something and thought, I bet they were eating this back in the day,
well, you do. You can do that. I think I have thought about it, too. Maybe
like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess there's some things that you think, oh, yeah, they've been eating this for ages, like Henry VIII, the turkey legs. And the
turkey legs, yeah. The basic stuff, like turkey legs and chicken legs. Roast potatoes. The roast potatoes, yes.
Basically anything on the British menu.
Yeah. That's one of them, Yorkshire puddings. They were only invented really in Victorian times,
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure exactly, because, it was just to kind of, like, save up, from, like, a Sunday meal or whatever, and it was like you didn't have enough money for meat, so just make a batter and that'll do you,
Okay, yeah.
And you think, oh, well, that they must have done that beforehand, they must have, someone somewhere must have made a Yorkshire pudding.
Yeah.
In ancient Egypt,
Well, I didn't know about that, but...
Or the Romans, they must have thought, what would go great with this? Some sort of, like, batter with a pudding, like, make it like, well, they call it Yorkshire pudding, but like a batter cake.
Yeah.
Because, bread is the oldest food ever.
I'm trying to think, like, is
bread was around in ancient Egypt, The flat bread. There's, like, a recipe. They found a recipe for a flat bread, like, etched on a wall.
Yeah.
I think it was in Mesopotamia or something like that, So there's all over, like, the world in that time, flatbreads were being made.
Yeah.
And it's like, you want to find out who first came up with, like, oh, yeah, flatbreads. Did he make any money off of it? Or did she make any money off of it?
Yeah. Yes. That's kind of a different topic, isn't it? But it's interesting to me how many places around the world have similar foods.
I mean, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Bread is common.
Well,
you know?
without having traveled, I'm assuming, or much, people had the same kinds of ideas about things. So I guess maybe it started with like, okay, let's make a
We've got
flat bread or like
something
a
that's easy
dough,
to eat
and then
on
we'll
the
put
go
stuff in it.
in ancient times. Yeah.
We'll stuff it with stuff.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
And it's like that happened in different places all around the world without them knowing that.
Yeah,
because
I mean, they couldn't go on
a similar
social
thing.
media and talk to each other and say, "I just made this amazing flatbread. You've got to have the recipe to this."
Because really,
and someone in Egypt's like, "Oh, cool, okay."
Because if you think like something like ravioli is sort of similar to like a Cornish pasty in a way,
Yeah.
to an empanada in a way,
Yeah.
to like a samosa. I mean, they're all filled with something. You know what I mean? They're all like a type of bread or a type of carbohydrate, let's say.
Yeah, because
filled with something.
I think like flatbreads. I think like in Roman times, and this may not be. This not. I don't actually have the documentation to hand here, but they used to cook them on their shields. In like whatever, on the fire or whatever.
Yeah.
And make a flatbread. And, they'd have cheese. I guess they'd have cheese and they'd put cheese on top. And it'd be like a little pizza then, Little cheese on their flatbread and they just eat it like that. Because, it's like on the go, and so that's the basic pizza right there, Cheese and thing. Because, like pizza from 500 years ago is not like pizza you'd see now. I mean, tomato sauce was added sometime.
Yeah.
I think that was actually over here. It was added.
So yeah, I was gonna say I don't even know that in
peppers and all that.
I don't even know
olives.
that if you order like a pizza at some places in like Rome, let's say, there's not even tomato sauce on it.
Yeah, no, it'll just be like
the traditional margarita
just be a cheese.
pizza. I think it just has the basil, cheese, and the tomato, and and it doesn't have like
sauce. Yeah. No, because I think when we went to Rome, it was kind of like, oh yeah, I was expecting, they're not gonna have like pizza, like supreme pizza or pepperoni pizza and stuff like that. But they did, obviously, because it's not like we're gonna be living in ancient Roman times and we're only gonna make it the way ancient Romans do, and America's so forward with all their like meats and cheeses on the pizza.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just like they've got like salami and pepperoni and mozzarella cheese, and it was good. It was good pizza in Rome. The flatbread way and everything, But yeah, no, I mean, all the bread and like soups and stews are like the oldest.
Okay, yeah.
Because I mean, they put water in a pot, heat it up. Well, we put some meat in there to like boil it up and. Whatever else, and what do you have with your soup? You have a chunk of bread, don't you?
Yeah.
Or crackers over here. People and their crackers, I don't even know. But yeah, no. The first one I've got on the list is this is like a British heavy list, because but there's.
Well, I mean, what we've talked in the podcast before about like what foods technically are American foods,
Yeah.
And anything that you would consider American is going to be not that old. So
it's not going to be that old.
Yeah,
no.
So
yeah.
I don't know if
it's going to be it's going to be
consider
invented in the last 200 years.
Yeah.
The ploughman's lunch, though, I was surprised to learn that in its current form, it's quite new. It was invented in like the 60s. Or the
you
late
have to
50s.
say what a ploughman's lunch is.
Ploughman's lunch, it's basically, because beer, bread, and cheese have been combined in the English diet since antiquity.
There you go with that word again.
And have been served together in inns for centuries. That's what antiquity means, centuries ago, However, the specific term ploughman's lunch is believed to date from the 1950s when the Cheese Bureau...
Oh, really?
The Cheese Bureau...
Yeah.
Which was like a marketing body, began promoting it in pubs as a way to increase the sales of cheese, which had recently ceased to be rationed because of wartime.
Okay, yeah.
So they were like, we need to sell cheese now. And milk,
That wouldn't be a problem for me.
Yeah.
Sell it all to me.
And its popularity increased as the Milk Marketing Board promoted the meal nationally throughout the 60s. And in the 70s, other ingredients, such as like a cold pork pie, were added.
Oh, yeah.
pickled onions, and like a type of chutney, usually like beetroot pickle. You know?
Yeah.
So it became like, it's just kind of like what a plowman would eat when they were out plowing the fields. And, you know, they had a little packed
Anything
lunch.
they could pack away, and that would be
cheese,
stay good during
bread,
the day. Yeah.
And beer. You know, you have beer, have a beer with it, you know.
Of course you do.
And, and I mean, I've never really, I've seen people eating them, you know.
Yeah.
Usually you'd have like lettuce and salad and stuff with it too.
Yeah. You're not such a fan of cold foods.
No, cold cuts. You know, I don't mind them every so often.
Cold meats, cold cheese.
Cold cheese. Yeah, I mean, I prefer like hot meals.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
You know.
But you can't say that that's a British thing because the ploughman's lunch.
Yeah. The ploughman's lunch. There you go. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of like, you know, I've never really been a big fan of it because I was never really into cheese growing up anyway.
Yes, you heathen.
You were the cheese head, but then I started liking cheese, and I don't cheese. Yes, I live with Wallace from Wallace and Gromit. It's just like cheese.
Yes.
Cracking bit of Wensleydale. But yeah, no, so like cold stuff, like, and of course, cheese and pickle sandwiches became a thing, probably because of the ploughman's lunch.
Yeah.
Which was like a slab of cheddar and pickled beetroot, because it's not like pickle as in like dill pickle or pickled cucumber. It's like a pickled beetroot with, like, you know, other stuff, and it's like a chutney.
Yeah.
You know, cheese and pickle. I never liked that. I never liked pickled beetroot. I was never a big veg fan anyway.
Yeah.
Growing up, you know, like most boys. You know,
no veg, no eggs, no cold things. It's like,
no cheese.
What do you feed him?
Just meat. Meat and potatoes. That was all I ate.
Oh my god, potatoes. You could live on potatoes.
I could live on potatoes and bread.
If I'm a cheesehead, you're a potato head.
Yes, you see? That's what we look like. I just look like a potato head, and Erica looks like a cheese head.
We need to go somewhere for some good raclette, you know, with the cheese.
And the potato.
Yes.
Yeah. But, you know, like a ploughman's lunch, that was only kind of like put together, really.
That's very surprising, actually.
Yeah, I mean, that was only like a new thing. And, you know, when I look at that, I think, oh, God, that's been around since ancient times.
Well, yeah. Big crusty bread, block of cheese.
Yeah.
Pickles, you know.
But, I mean, to be fair, be it bread and cheese. Bread and cheese was, like, antiquity.
Yes.
Antiquity. And I do like bread, and you know, it's funny because over here it seems like nothing really is too bready.
Bread.
No, there's not enough bread. I feel like there's not enough bread.
I mean, that's just subjective.
I guess it is subjective, but it's just like, I don't know. It just feels like, I mean, guess because
just
like
depends.
Greggs and bakeries and stuff. So I've been used to like, the pastries and
I suppose so.
and the pasties and the sausage rolls and everything's covered in bread.
Yeah, I mean, in
and
Texas,
sandwiches and
in
rolls.
Texas, we don't have a lot of like bakeries where you can just go in and order like a loaf of bread. I suppose.
Yeah.
Because our bakeries are usually in the grocery stores.
Yes,
but like up in Chicago, back east, you know, Boston,
all the bread, all
of the New England area and everything. They're gonna have bakeries and all of that kind of thing.
Let us know if you know a good bakery near you that sells all the bread and all the stuff.
Especially
sausage rolls,
especially if you do live somewhere like in the South or the Western United States. Like, let us know if with Western United States, like. Nobody in California eats bread. Bread is carbs, isn't it?
Bread is carbs. You know? it's banned in California.
I don't even know why
California
I included that.
Proposition 5.
Yeah. But, it would be really interesting to find out, like, oh, there's this really great bakery in Arizona or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. The next recipe that I was kind of surprised about was sticky toffee pudding.
Okay.
Or sticky date pudding, as they call it.
It does seem like something that would have been around, like, Henry VIII time.
Henry VIII would have eaten the crap out of sticky toffee pudding, I think. He would have just been like, okay, give me a whole trough of that stuff, you know? But no, again, the origins are disputed, and owners of several pubs in Yorkshire claim to have invented it. They claim to 1907, funnily enough.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a couple of ones in Scotland that say, oh yeah, we invented it in the 1960s, but it was popularised in the 70s. And they developed it in Cumbria, apparently. And then they eventually like made it like so it could be microwavable and sold in stores and stuff.
You know what? When you really think about it, I guess it does make sense, doesn't it? Because it's dates. You don't grow dates in Britain, do you?
Yeah, I mean it's got to have been like imported by somebody, because apparently when a food critic went to these people, he said, "Oh, I received the recipe from Canadian Air Force officers, who lodged at her hotel. You know, this woman. He received the recipe from a Patricia Martin of Cloughton in Lancashire, and that Martin had received this from Canadian Air Force officers who lodged at a hotel during the Second World War. So people were making this in Canada, maybe? Because it's basically like a moist date cake.
But, yeah.
If you're unfamiliar. And it's got like a toffee sauce.
Yeah.
Which is just basically butter and cream.
But where do
and
dates
sugar.
grow? To me, dates are like what? Middle Eastern?
Like figs, yeah.
Greece?
Dates, yeah.
I'm not sure where they like grow naturally. But yeah, when you think about that, like, obviously
I never ate it growing up, really. I mean, I had it like maybe once. And I thought it was good, and then I never had it again. It was like, it's like an old, it was invented in the 70s, but in the like 80s and 90s, I guess everything from the 70s and the 60s was kind of old hat. You know, you were in that transitional period where, oh, we're eating microchips now and ice lollies and stuff like that, you know. So all the like stuff that was made in like the 70s for like, oh yeah, sticky toffee pudding and, you know, spotted dick and all that kind of went out of the window. And then it's only now received a resurgence because, oh, I remember having that in school, you know?
Yeah.
So.
But like, you know, those shows that we watched on the BBC, like what was it?
Back in Time for Dinner?
Time for Dinner, where they talk about like when the like more ethnic restaurants started increasing
60s.
in popularity. Yeah.
Late 60s. Yeah, it was like late 60s, yeah.
So it makes sense for like the dates to have come in and become popular and, ooh, this is kind of exotic and what can we make with these? And
yeah.
You know, I don't know.
It's like Indian food exploded in popularity, you know, with the Bangladeshi immigrants and everything from like the 70s onwards.
Because what do you really grow in Britain? What grows really? What's the main crop in Britain? Do we know?
Oh,
Potatoes?
Potatoes, maybe. Apples.
Yeah.
There's a lot of orchards in Britain. Yeah, but like potatoes, carrots, cabbage, you know. Root veg, yeah, root veg, you know, because there's a lot of rain for the soil and everything, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean,
well, maybe that's a topic for another podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to go into, like, my gran used to grow tomatoes in her greenhouse.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that was like...
That's a greenhouse, though.
Yeah, it's a greenhouse.
That's not like...
Or the glass house, as she used to call it, because she was all fan of glass house. In the glass house, yeah. Growing my tomatoes. And they were good too, apparently. I never really ate them, but I'm sure they would have been good in like a pasta sauce or something, you know.
Yeah.
But she never made pasta.
Tomatoes. Add that to your list of things Dominic doesn't eat.
Raw
raw
tomatoes.
If you're keeping track.
Raw tomatoes. No, I don't eat them because they're slimy and raw tomatoey. But so my dad would cut them up and eat them with a bit of salt and pepper.
Yeah.
But I'd be like, oh no, we're going to mash them up, put them in a...
Salt and pepper and olive oil, that's the better way. I don't know if I can do them just salt and pepper. I mean, I don't mind tomatoes, but yeah, I'm not like just a raw tomato.
I seem to remember he'd eat them like an apple, you know?
Yeah.
Just on their own.
Too.
I think just salt and pepper.
I'm pretty sure I've seen my dad eat an onion like that at some point in history.
Yes, raw onions, no. Any raw veg, get it out of here.
Oh, I'm just gonna have my onion
Cook
here.
it. Cook it up. Throw it in the fire. But yeah, no, that sticky toffee pudding, I thought that was around Henry VIII times. Antiquity.
It seems like it.
The word of the day is antiquity.
But then when you think about what it's made of, it's like, yeah, it makes sense that it wasn't like around since, I guess Spotted Dick has probably been around a while, or is that on your
I don't
list?
know. It's not on my list, no, so. Chicken tikka masala is on my list, though.
Oh, well.
I didn't think
that was
and it's like
an antiquity dish.
I don't know, like in India, I mean, people, the origins of it are quite...
It's not Indian, is it?
I mean, yeah, again, another origin disputed thing. People going, was it invented in India or was it invented in the UK? And people go, well, it was probably invented in the UK.
Yeah.
Scotland, Glasgow, I think, have a strong claim to it because someone said I did this. It was like South Asian cooks coming over from opening Indian restaurants. The customers coming in, it was like, oh, this chicken tikka's a bit dry. Could you have a bit of gravy with it? And he just made up some tomatoes and spices, and that was it. And it was okay,
Can you imagine putting brown British gravy on deliciously spiced chicken tikka? No,
not brown gravy, no.
Yeah, but that must have been probably what they meant.
Maybe.
If they're British and they said, can you put some gravy on here? That's what they were thinking.
Maybe it was a sauce. Maybe he says, oh, can it have a sauce with this? Brown sauce or something.
Hey, let us know if you are Indian listening, or if you have been to India. Does chicken tikka masala exist over there?
I think butter chicken exists.
I
because people confuse that over here with chicken tikka masala. They're like, oh, I like butter chicken, and I'm like,
they're very similar.
They're similar, except butter chicken I think has more butter in it.
Yeah.
It's more like a very mild kind of like korma type.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas chicken tikka masala, you can have it like it's more tomato based. You know.
Yeah. I would be willing to bet that you could find it in India just because of its popularity in, like, Britain and America. And, I mean, we're seeing it in the grocery store all the time over here now. So I think it's come up in popularity here as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of like chicken tikka masala, like that exploded in popularity, and then Indian food in general did, then curry did.
Yeah. And
curry still is holding fort against everything else, because the Chinese takeaway then,
Yeah.
Which is just like and it's funny because, there is a difference between British Chinese food and American Chinese food, which is so hilarious because it's like none of it represents actual Chinese food, really.
No, that's true. It's funny because when you go to a Chinese restaurant or a Chinese takeaway in Britain, you can get a curry.
Chinese curry.
You would never see that on the menu over here.
And it's like, I used to get that. I used to get chicken curry and chips all the time at the Chinese restaurant before I got a...
And chips,
and chips, that
chips
is like...
That exists in Wales, though.
Probably the north of England, too. I've seen people on, forums and stuff going, oh, yeah, that's a northern thing to have chips with everything. And I'm like, oh, it's a Welsh thing, too. But, yeah.
But, yeah, it's not an antiquity recipe. I don't think. Did you have a date? 70s, was it?
60s.
60s.
Yeah, the 60s. Yeah. When it came out. Or, was invented, I guess.
Yeah.
Baguettes.
Oh.
Yeah. Bread, fine. Baguettes are relatively new.
Okay.
And, much of the history is speculation, but it's believed around 1920 is when the baguette started, taking off.
Huh. Interesting.
Because baguette simply means like wand in French, you know, like baton or stick. And funnily enough, French stick is what it's called in the UK. It's like, my dad said, go to get a French stick.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's like, going to get a French, and you'll see it on things. I mean, maybe nowadays, with yes, it's called baguette, but when I was a kid, it was always called a French stick. You know,
yeah. Yeah.
But funnily enough, we were part of Europe then, so now that Britain has Brexited, will it go to baguette, you know?
Yeah. No, it's funny. It's funny, the sort of resistance, and again, this is another topic for another podcast, but the resistance to use, like, French words in Britain. You know what I mean? Like, you guys find it so fascinating that we have so many French words that we use, or like French pronunciations of words, especially like buffet.
Buffet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you guys like are very reluctant.
We've got a lot of French like words borrowed. You know, we've got a lot of French words that are like, you know, we use a lot of, like rendezvous and stuff like that, you know, and baguette and, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you know, that's the French word, but like buffet, you know.
Courgette. I mean, that's French.
Courgette, yeah. Courgette, there you go.
Yeah, that's true.
Aubergine.
But it does, yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Crazy times. I mean, that's so funny because, you know, you'd think, baguette is like, that's been around since...
Yeah, I think I would think that, yeah.
Antiquity. And not just 1920 or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when that took off, it started to be imported around around Europe.
Yeah.
And ciabatta...
Oh, now I know about ciabatta.
Oh, you know, do you?
Yeah.
I think I told you.
That's much more recent.
That's much more recent. Ciabatta is closer to our age.
Oh my god.
1982.
I didn't realize it was that
recent.
Yeah.
And it was invented by Arnaldo Cavallari. Arnaldo Cavallari. Who called the bread ciabatta Polisania after police in it. Policine. I'm probably butchering that.
No idea.
The area he lived in. Cavalli and other bakers in Italy were concerned by the popularity of sandwiches made from baguettes imported from France. And so they were like, they're endangering their business, you know.
Yeah, I think you told me all of this not that long ago, but yeah, I don't
Instead of them just making baguettes, you know?
Yeah.
They were probably just kind of like, oh no, we need to make an Italian bread.
Ooh, ciabatta's so good.
Ciabatta is good, yeah. And so they set about trying to create an Italian alternative with which to make sandwiches. The recipe for ciabatta came about after several weeks of trying variations and of traditional bread recipes, and consists of a soft, wet dough made with high gluten flour.
Yeah.
Because ciabatta, you know, I think it varies over here too. There's like, you get a loaf of ciabatta and it's quite, you know, the grain of it is quite close, and then some of it is like, there's like big holes in it.
Yeah.
And I think the holes, because it varies from region to region over there too, you know.
Yeah, it can be quite, the outside of it is quite like...
Crusty.
Like
a baguette.
But then the inside's very spongy. Like like you could squish the loaf together like that, and it would be real like, it's so good.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, it's like compared to a baguette, you know, it's good, you know.
Yeah.
I like it.
You like a baguette better?
I don't know, actually.
A baguette can be kind of hard. Like, you can actually use it as a baton and knock someone over the head with it.
Yeah.
If it's a couple days old.
That was a good thing to do as a douche, you know. Get someone away from me. I got my baguette. I mean, and they used to call it a baton as well.
Yeah.
That was another, you know, they would never use the word baguette. I guess maybe they've copyrighted the word baguette somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
You know, maybe, and so supermarkets can't use the word baguette because maybe that's what it is, because it wasn't made in France, so it's not a baguette. Like a Cornish pasty is not a Cornish pasty.
You see baguette over here all the time, though. French baguette, it says.
French baguette, yeah. Maybe it's imported then. Maybe they imported the... But in Britain, you know, like you go to the supermarket and it used to be French stick or baton. Ciabatta, yeah, I don't think I'd had ciabatta until I was, you know, much older.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I think Marks and Spencer started selling it in the mid-80s.
You know what? Wendy's used to do this turkey and Swiss on ciabatta.
And when I first met you, that's all you'd ever go on about is the turkey and Swiss cheese.
It was so good.
Turkey and Swiss.
It was so good. It was like...
And the way you were talking about it was like this gigantic sandwich that you'd have to like take little tiny bites out of.
It was like nothing that you could ever find at Wendy's again after that.
Yeah, they stopped doing it.
It was quite like fresh and just completely different. And yeah, they did that for a while. I can't remember if it had... I think it was just turkey and Swiss. I want to say it had avocado on it, but I don't think it did. But yeah, that might have been the first time I had ciabatta. I'm not really sure. But yeah, so good. Delicious.
Ciabatta, yeah, no, it's very good.
Chef's kiss.
They do that at Mandela's too. They serve ciabatta with olive oil as well, like fresh out of the oven.
It is ciabatta, yeah.
And you just, oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah. We're making ourselves hungry now.
Yes. Well, the next one is something I know you don't like. Americano coffee.
Oh, yeah.
The Americano.
Americano, isn't that just black coffee?
It's not brewed coffee.
Not brewed? What do you mean?
It's espresso shot.
Okay.
With hot water added to it.
Oh.
It's a type of coffee drink. It's basically a diluted espresso.
Oh, I always thought it was just a black coffee. If you said I want an Americano, I thought it was just black coffee. Like no cream, no sugar.
It's not like like they've dumped it and they've just brewed the coffee in like a pot. Mm-hmm. It's like a shot of like espresso or how many espressos.
Yeah.
Shots and just diluted with some hot water.
Interesting.
And there's a different taste to it,
Yeah.
An Americano. And that came about in like the 1970s, they say. But then there's people going, oh, well, actually, it's a popular but unconfirmed belief that the name has its origins in World War II when American GIs in Italy diluted espresso with hot water to approximate the coffee to which they were accustomed to.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, this coffee's too strong.
Yeah.
Can't be having these shots of espresso. Because, espresso, they have a shot of espresso. It was like a cup of espresso. It was like very, very, like, concentrated coffee.
Yeah.
And I've had espresso, and it's good, on its own, Mm. But yeah, no, diluting it with hot water, yeah, that's a new thing, You think coffee's something that's been around since antiquity. And then we're running out of time here, actually.
Oh.
Cheeseburger. The cheeseburger.
I mean, I don't think that I would think that's been around
you
since
think somebody
antiquity.
didn't start frying up meat and they had a block of cheese and thought, well, do you know what? I should put that cheese on that meat and see what happens.
But I am curious how old it is.
Because hamburgers, right?
Yeah.
They've been around. Hamburger steaks, they used to call them. Because, that comes from the Hamburg steak.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like the Salisbury steak, which apparently they changed they changed the name of it during World War I because of anti-German sentiment.
Oh.
They changed the name of the Hamburg steak to the Salisbury steak.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
so the
so
Salisbury
interesting.
Yeah. So it's basically and they're saying they're two different things now. The Hamburg steak is this, and Salisbury steak is that.
Yeah.
But they're pretty much the same thing. It's a hunk of meat with gravy on it.
Yeah.
So the origin of hamburger is unclear, though. Like hamburger steak sandwiches.
Yeah.
Have been advertised in U.S. newspapers from New York to Hawaii since at least the 1890s.
Oh, that is antiquity.
And several people, of course, have claimed to have invented it and served the first one in their restaurant or whatever,
That's so weird how that is always the case, no matter what. It's just like, what do you get by being the inventor of this thing? It's like, it's popular, everybody's making it. Like, why are you lying about the fact that you were the first one? You know what I mean? Like, somebody's lying.
Of like, yeah, somebody's lying, or somebody's just thinking, well, I started serving that in my restaurant and everybody had said they'd never had it before, so I must have invented it.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then someone over in
That's
California is
more
like,
fair,
no, well,
I suppose.
actually, it was the same thing. And it's just kind of like, oh, it was just kind of like one of those...
It was like the Dennis the Menace.
Yeah,
Britain
yeah.
and America thing.
I guess so. Because, you think about it, that would have been something that they would have had in Europe, like, meat, like a big thing of a Hamburg steak sandwich or steaks,
Yeah.
That would have been a thing they would have
But
thought
like the
of.
hamburger bun, that's a kind of a different type of thing. Or is
Maybe
that,
because it was a round patty.
Yeah.
And they were thinking, well, this square, I don't know, there's too much bread here. We'll just cut off the thing. I don't know. You'd have to look that up, because that was probably something they invented much later on in the, maybe 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
Adding cheese to hamburgers became popular in 1920. And there's several competing claims as to who created the first cheeseburger.
1920 is recent, though.
Yeah,
isn't it?
I mean, yeah,
that
it's
is
not
more recent than I guess you would think, but
Lionel Sternberger is reputed to have introduced the cheeseburger in 1924 at the age of 16. He was working as a fry cook at his father's Pasadena, California sandwich shop, the Right Spot, and experimentally dropped a slab of American cheese on a sizzling hamburger. An early example of a cheeseburger appearing on a menu is a 1928 menu for the Los Angeles restaurant O'Dell's, which listed a cheeseburger smothered with chili for 25 cents.
I mean,
so you can't get a cheeseburger for 25 cents anymore.
Yeah. But I mean, the typical cheeseburger in America does have American cheese on it, though, doesn't it?
Yes.
It's sort of rare, or I guess it's considered more gourmet if it's got anything besides American cheese. If it's got Swiss, or if it's got,
Jack cheese,
or,
yeah,
whatever. So that being said, I guess, craft American cheese, you'd have to think, oh, well, how long has that been around?
Yeah.
And then there you go, cheeseburger.
And, other restaurants claim to have invented it too, and apparently the trademark was awarded to Louis Ballast of the Humpty Dumpty Drive-In in Denver, Colorado.
Humpty Dumpty Drive-In!
According to Steak and Shake archives, the restaurant's founder Gus Belt applied for a trademark on the word in the 1930s. So these people just oh, this guy's dropping cheese on his burgers. We need to do that too. And so, it's like, oh, we'll put a pickle and bacon. Because apparently bacon was another thing that was added later on too.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I started the bacon cheeseburger.
I mean, the bacon seems okay, fair enough. But, it seems crazy to think that somebody would go, wonder what would happen if we put cheese on this. I mean, we're just so used to it now. It's of course you put cheese on it. You know?
Of course you put cheese on it,
So it seems weird that anybody would think, oh, I wonder what that would be like. You know what I mean? It's just
well, it must
cheese.
have been kind of in the, maybe in the 50s, there was this thing of putting a slab of cheese on an apple pie, warm apple pie, right? So maybe that was something, I have to look this up, maybe that was something in a diner, and I thought, well, you know what, that's a bit weird to put cheese on a apple pie. Let's try it on something savory instead, like a slab of meat. Meat and cheese going together,
Yeah.
And,
that's it. Actually, now when you say meat and cheese going together, I can see how people might have thought that was gross, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. It's oh, that's dairy, and you're gonna
put dairy with meat? What's the matter with you,
Yeah.
I can see people going, oh, that's a bit weird.
That's weird. Oh, that's wrong.
And, they're just like, oh, we'll put some cheese on my apple pie, because cheese must have been kind of like a dessert. Even because it was kind of like a dessert. It was something that you had.
Well, they do that in France, don't they? They serve cheese at the end of a meal, with your dessert.
It's kind of like a soft cheese, though.
Yeah, but it's not sweet. It's not like a cream cheese.
No,
it's still like a savory kind of cheese. So
but that's what I mean. It's like a dessert, and that's how it must have been presented. It's like, oh no, you don't have it for a main. You have it as part of your cheese and crackers,
Yeah.
And that's your end of your meal digestion aid or whatever they used to call it.
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh yeah, what if you put it on like the steak?
Yeah.
This Hamburg steak or whatever, or put it on whatever, then people are just like, no, you don't do that. Who's a weirdos does that?
Yes.
And then a round bun too. Oh, never catch on. But yes, there we go.
There we go. A food-centric podcast for you.
Yes.
It's not Thanksgiving.
It's not Thanksgiving
themed.
yet.
Well, it's not Thanksgiving themed.
No.
But I think we've talked about Thanksgiving all we can.
We've talked about turkey and
in the past. So
dressing.
We thought, you know what, we'll talk about food, but not Thanksgiving. Well, it's not Thanksgiving today anyway. It's in a couple of days.
It's
so.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
No.
It's a couple of days from now.
A couple of days, yeah. So, hope you guys, everybody has a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Wherever you may be. Even if you don't celebrate it, we still want you to have a happy day.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you guys so much, as always, for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. If you don't already, be sure to follow us on social media. We are at TButty, TEABUTTY on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And we'll talk to you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.